I am pleased to introduce our next panel, Bridging the Gap, Connecting Employers and Experienced Employees. Our moderator is Jillian Kelly, a Senior Program Officer at NextFifty Initiative, and she'll be introducing our panelists, Lisa Armoa, Linda Drake, Denise McKechnie, and Janine Vanderberg. And while they're approaching the stage, I'll share a little bit about Jillian. As I mentioned, she's Senior Program Officer at NextFifty Initiative, the foundation that has provided the funding for the Ames, Colorado project. At NextFifty, she maintains a portfolio of grantees that supports NextFifty's team of program officers. She builds and strengthens the funding initiatives such as our project, and her career has been dedicated to improving the lives of older adults. I look forward to turning this over to her and this really terrific and groundbreaking panel.
It is great to see you all. Thanks so much for being here, and it has been such a great day so far. Thank you for hanging on until the end. I think you will be glad that you did. We have a wonderful panel here for you. As Catherine said, my name is Jillian Kelly. I'm with an organization called NextFifty Initiative. We are a private foundation that funds aging initiatives to better the lives of older adults and their caregivers, including some of the programs that you're going to hear about today. We fund all different kinds of aging programs and initiatives, but obviously we're here today to talk about workforce, because workforce is such an absolutely crucial, key topic for older adults, for businesses, and for the community as a whole. As you've heard today, from all of the presentations, we all benefit when older adults are a part of the workforce, and employers need to be thinking of ways to make their work environments more age-friendly. So with that, I'm so excited to introduce our panel this afternoon. Each of our panelists are experts in their own right in aging and workforce, and work in this in a variety of really interesting and innovative capacities. You're going to be hearing from them today about ways that they engage older adults with employers, the ways that they engage businesses in becoming more age-friendly, and the innovative strategies that they use to do these things. I hope you'll hear something that is inspiring to you to either get involved with one of these organizations or to come up with your own creative ways to engage older adults and become a more age-friendly employer. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the panelists each to introduce themselves, because I want you to hear directly from them about who they are, what they do, and what organization you all are representing. And so if you can introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what organization or program you're representing and what your organization does for workforce and aging. And we'll start with Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. First of all, my last name isn't that. It's A-R-M-A-O. So if you're looking me up later, you got to switch those last two vowels or you won't find me, because I don't know who that is, but it's not me. I am here. I run a really small nonprofit that I started 2 years ago that's called Early Childhood Service Corps, and our mission is really simple. It's to integrate older adults into the early childhood field. So my background is in early childhood. That's what I did for about 27, 28 years of my career. And right before the pandemic started, I really started to wonder about and learn about intergenerational programming and intergenerational learning, and really wondered what that would look like if we were able to get older adults more involved in raising children and more involved in the care of young children. Having done that for so many years, I knew that a lot of children don't have their grandparents near. They don't see their grandchildren. They don't see their grandparents. And I also know that children, my background's in early childhood, so I come at this from such a different viewpoint, because I know that children that have relationships with older adults that they're not related to have a different outlook on aging as they grow older. They see it in a more positive way. They grow older in a more gentler way because they've had the experience of getting to know older adults. So Early Childhood Service Corps, we integrate older adults into the early childhood field. I recruit, train. Training's a really big thing in early childhood, because you need to be a trained volunteer. And if you're going to stay on with me and become an encore sub, so I recruit, train, and then deploy these older adults that I've trained into the early childhood field to serve as volunteers. Some are volunteer business advisors, so if you come to me with business experience, then I train you in all things early childhood and you help administratively. Some are classroom and site volunteers, but the majority of folks that come to me want to work. They're 55 plus and they want to work in early childhood as subs. So I've created a whole training program with the University of Colorado, Denver. And once they take my program it's about 14 weeks of training, they have the early childhood certification to be a sub or a floater in the early childhood field. So that's what I'm here to talk about.
Thank you, Linda.
I'm Linda Drake. I'm a 61-year-old employee of Bayaud Enterprises. My job title is job development. I have done job development, which is helping people who have issues with employment, whether it be disability, homelessness, felonies, low income, all kinds of different things, helping them find work. I've done that for about 21 years. Bayaud is an amazing organization. It started in 1969, helping people specifically with mental health issues find work. They were the second organization in the United States to use work as a form of therapy for people with mental health issues to help them find health. And we also, because after that we added people with all types of disabilities and then these other barriers to employment over the years. So my program where I work, about half of the people come from Voc Rehab, which is the state agency that helps people with disabilities. And then the other half is through NextFifty. So it's people who are over 50 and helping to train employers. One of the great things about Bayaud is because we have had such a focus on people with disabilities, we have about 300 employees. At least half of them have significant disabilities. What we have seen is the value of all people, which helps us when we look at older workers as well as people with disabilities. So that's what I'll be talking about today.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Michike, and I'm a program analyst with the Colorado Department of Human Services and the State Unit on Aging. And one of the programs I oversee is called CSEP, which stands for Senior Community Services Employment Program. And it's kind of like what it sounds. It basically provides employment to seniors 55 and older. The background on this, I'll just kind of summarize this. The U.S. Department of Labor funds both state and private nonprofit agencies through a federal grant to provide CSEP. The regulations are addressed in the Older Americans Act, and the regulations apply to both state grantees as well as private nonprofit agencies. So the program's vary very little from state to state because it's very regulated by Department of Labor. And I'll get into more of that with my descriptions, but it's basically a way to employ a certain amount of individuals that we are allotted by DOL. Like, for example, I think we have about 83 positions that we get to fill. I say we actually have a sub-grantee that runs the program here called SARE National. And so I will be getting into a little more about what they do a little later. Thank you.
I guess it's my turn. Okay, I'm going to stand up because I can't see over the podium. One, because I'm short, and two, because the podium is right in my way. So I'm Janine Vandenberg with Changing the Narrative. It is so nice to see so many friendly faces, and especially after 3 o'clock today. Thank you for staying. I was worried if my friends were going to be walking out the door. At Changing the Narrative, what we believe is that older workers are good for business, and having older workers in the workforce is great not only for older workers ourselves, but for the economy and overall communities. And so to that end, our overall goal at Changing the Narrative is to end ageism. We operate virtually in all 50 states in the U.S. and 24 countries outside of the U.S. of people who participated in our programs last year. The programs related to workforce were this: one, employer education, so letting employers know anywhere about the business case for older workers in intergenerational teams. We also work with local workforce development centers to help them and help staff position older workers, because very often workforce development centers have been used to working with a certain population, and all of a sudden there are highly experienced people age 50 and over who walk in and they some have no ideas what to do with them. So we've helped workforce development centers. We have partnered with workforce development centers to do a program called Success Strategies for Job Seekers age 50 and over. And this is where Carrie's book comes in. This is highly, highly recommend. And I was noticing there are extra copies there, Carrie, and I don't know if this is allowed or NextFifty, but we also highly recommend this for younger workers as well. In fact, I think I tweeted Carrie once, the only objection I had to this book was it said for people age 50 and over, because this has incredible advice, but this is the kind of advice that is there is what we are giving in our workshops for older workers. We do research and policy advocacy, and we do some original research. So for example, right now we are partnering with a group of graduate students to find out, and I think, Rich, you asked a question this morning about, is there really kind of a great retirement going on? And so what we're exploring with actual older people themselves is, did you really retire? And this isn't a survey, this is qualitative research, or what are the factors in having you step away from the workforce? And then we kind of accumulate research that people like Rick Mercer and others have done, AARP research, and we kind of infuse that in our communications to older workers, to employers. So we take these complicated studies and try to boil them down into sound bites that people can say, oh yeah, that's why I ought to be hiring an older worker. We do policy advocacy, so we're currently partnering with AARP, Allison, where are you? Colorado Center for Aging, CU Multidisciplinary Center on Aging, and a lot of our friends. We heard from Heather earlier about AARP's efforts to do a graduation date bill in New York and Connecticut, and we are going to get that done in Colorado next year. So those are some of the things we do. And then finally, in the category of social proof, we've partnered with the National Age-Friendly Institute and offer the Certified Age-Friendly Employer Program to employers in Colorado. So if anyone's interested in that, you can let me know. The end.
Wonderful. Thank you all. As you can see, we have some wonderful programs here to talk about today. And now that we've heard a little bit about what you all do, I'd love to ask each of you to share for a few moments about your impact, the impact that your program has had on older adults and on the community.
Do you want me to start again?
Sure.
That's what I get for sitting here. So I have been really surprised by the impact this has just grown in a way that I can't even. It's a one-woman show. It's me. When I say we, I mean me. I'm doing this. Somebody's making noise.
Okay. Are we good?
Can you hear me now? I didn't touch anything.
Oh, there you
He's
are.
giving me the thumbs up. He's like, it's okay, just keep talking. So when I say we, I mean me. I do now have a few people that help me a little bit. So it's really just this sort of bootstrap thing that I dreamt up sort of and made into this thing. And it has made such an incredible difference. Sitting here listening today and hearing, conversations about how do we get employers to hire older adults, I am not having that experience in early childhood. There is such a workforce crisis in early childhood. They are begging to use my people. They call me, they email me. It's constant. You have to become a partner site with my organization to be able to use one of my volunteers or one of my Encore subs so that I know that the quality of child care that my people are going to be working in. And I'm overran with requests for help. I had 8 people in the pilot course. I had 15 total sign up. 8 became Encore subs. All 8 of those are working in the field right now. 4 of them only wanted to work 1 or 2 days a week. 4 of them are working full-time, 40 hours a week. And when I talked to them before I came, I said, what changed your mind? And they said, well, first of all, it's too much fun. I'm enjoying it too much. I love working with the kids. And I'm so needed. They need me so badly. These people aren't taking breaks. It's mayhem out there. So to feel needed and to have a purpose was so meaningful for these folks. In the second cohort after the pilot, I had 85 older adults sign up to be interested in the program. 85 people. 43 of those stayed, and 24 of those are taking the coursework right now through UC Denver to become Encore subs, and they'll be working by December. So from the first pilot, when everybody was a little bit traumatized from being home from COVID, inviting them into my living room on a Zoom call. A lot of us didn't really know how to do Zoom, all those stories you all know. But working through that, adding tech courses, building the program out, and watching these people go from feeling very nervous and shy to now talking on Channel 7 News about our program, talking to the class that I have, they've just expanded before my very eyes. I don't know any other way to say it other than these older adults have just expanded. They're just happy. They're enjoying it so much. And the kids, they call them Grandpa Mike and Grammy Barb, and the kids love them. The kids could care less how old you are. They just want you to hang out with them. So it's had a huge impact on early childhood, and I hope that it will continue to grow because they need about 34% more folks in early childhood. And I've seen just a tremendous response from the people that have joined the program.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Linda, if you want to talk about impact of Bayaud.
So the impact of Bayaud, I've helped people find jobs, like I said, and one of the things when you help people find jobs is you help them see the value in themselves when they've forgotten the value in themselves. So I never let somebody say, there's age discrimination out there, because what you focus on, you're going to get more of. I focus on what are you able to do? What do you bring to the workforce? What are your special gifts and talents? So one of the impacts that we've had, how many in here have experienced somebody working who hated their job? Obviously, it was not their right job. Raise your hand if you've experienced that. Was that very pleasant? No. What about, have you experienced somebody, whether it was at Arby's or the state, wherever, who was obviously in their right job? What was that like? How many, right? That's what I do. That's what we do at Bayaud. We help people find their right job. And we do that through some assessment. We do that through talking to them and just helping them see this other part of themselves. That's a really hard thing to qualify or quantify because who knows? I've helped easily 800 people over my 16 years at Bayaud, 60% of whom found jobs. Many of whom come back to me years later and tell me thank you. I have a guy, one of the employer partners that we have is with Christian Living Communities. Does anyone know Christian Living Communities? It's an amazing place. And they hired a man, his name was Eitan, he was homeless at the time. And I talk a lot about being in your right job, but sometimes finding your right job means finding the right employer. And from there going into your right job. So Eitan started in 2008 when the economy was not very good and he had had a horrible time finding work. Christian Living Communities took him in the kitchen. That was not his dream job, but Christian Living Communities was his dream employer. Now he's still there. They absolutely love him and he's moved up and he's doing maintenance. So because he's in his right job, he loves what he does, he loves interacting with the residents and makes a difference in their lives every day. So that's what Bayaud does. And because of that, like I said, the people that was my bad. The people that we hire at Bayaud to work for us, we have about at least 50% of the people that work at Bayaud are 50 or over. Some people, when you're 50 and over, you acquire a new disability you didn't have before. A lot of people in the construction field or whatever, their backs are injured, whatever the case may be. So we help them find something different. We've used SIR, which is amazing. They've helped us start different programs. But through the Voc Rehab, you can do a thing called work adjustment, where somebody who is new to their disability or is new to the workforce can try out a job for just like 7 hours a week, and it's free to the employer, and then the person gets feedback. How are they doing? Are they working well? Are they showing up? Are they doing what they need to do? So those are some of the things that we do to just make a difference.
Well, before getting into the impacts of the CSET program, I should probably summarize what the eligibility requirements are. Other than 55 and older, there were some priority targeted situations. I'm a bit new to this, so I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So priority is given to those who are 65 or older, who are veterans, have a disability, have limited English proficiency or low literacy skills, who reside in rural areas, those who are homeless or at risk of being homeless, are of ethnic minority, and a newly added one from DOL within last year is a formerly incarcerated. So those are all the kind of situations that folks can have that make them qualify for this program that give priority. And so I would say, given all that, I think the biggest impact this program has is just it lets people think that they can go back to the workforce, or in some cases maybe first entering it, when they don't believe that they really can. You know, there's all those barriers might let them think, I'm not going to be able to work anymore. You know, I don't speak English well, or I just got out of jail, or something like that. That just they probably may not think that they're capable of doing this at their age. So the CSEP program, and that puts them into governmental and/or nonprofit agencies, which of course, you know, are always needed to have employees there. And I think it just boosts their confidence, and it lets them realize that, you know, all the situations they may have encountered. I mean, anyone of any age with any barriers may think that working is going to be difficult for them, but I feel like CSEP kind of gives them that confidence. I mean, it's designed to promote self-sufficiency, but also self-confidence. And again, there's a limited position. It also has a limited kind of time span. So I think it's, let me just see this real quick. So they can stay in the program not to exceed 48 months, but after 24 months, they can go from one host agency, and by that I mean that's the agency that actually helps train the employee and give them the employment. After 24 months, they can go from one host agency to another, giving them even more skills that they may not have had or want to reinvent for themselves. So I just feel like overall, I mean, of course, there's the added, more obvious benefit of it gives them financial security, which many of them may not have ever had. So I think the whole scenario for getting into CSEP for, again, the priority targeted population, many who are over 65, it gives them a whole different way of living that I think they weren't used to before. So I think that would summarize what the CSEP program does.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's been amazing for Bayaud. And through the pandemic, we had two men who had both had felony charges, both had disabilities, both had experienced homelessness. And through the whole pandemic, they were paid every single month just like they had worked. That was huge and enabled them to not become homeless again. So that was
true.
really amazing.
I have heard stories like that. And of course,
Yep.
Speaking of the pandemic, that really did a number on the program.
Yes.
Because the host agencies would close down for a while. They wouldn't let people come in person. So then Sarah had to learn how to do virtual trainings, which, again, some of the targeted population, you know, a little difficult to get them to learn this. But so for the past year or two, the participation rate was pretty low. And finally now it's getting back to normal, I mean, somewhat. The host agencies are opening up again. The SARE is working more with the workforce development centers and just kind of almost like re-promoting this program the best they can with the limited positions they have. Now we have, here in Colorado, we have two main locations where SARE operates, and one is Denver, one is actually in Trinidad. So we are allotted, I think, 83 slots, and the majority of them are in Denver and Boulder. But then there's even like a couple spaces in like counties like Custer County and somewhere in the southeast. So they're just trying to figure out how to get these. Again, like some counties only have one or two slots, so some of those may be hard to fill and some of them may not be depending on where it is, but they're having to kind of reinvent how they advertise for this, so to speak, or recruit for this program, because they've had nothing but disappointment and lack of participation. So it's really nice to see that things are kind of moving along again.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stand up again. Can we hear me, or did I knock myself out in the last round? Okay. So I like to think that what changing the narrative does, and our desired impact, is to kind of create the environment and the climate so that as program participants in each of your programs, when they're going out, they're entering employers that are more open to hiring people of all ages. There is less workplace age discrimination, right? This is my big dream. I talked to a reporter yesterday who said, well, don't you think ending ageism is too big a goal? And I was like, well, go big or go home. So that's kind of where we are at changing the narrative. So some of the impacts that we know we've had in our desired area for employer education, and this is when Karen and I were doing the roadshow around Colorado before the pandemic, 87% of employers who participated in workshops that Karen and I had done on the business case for older workers said they were more likely to hire older workers as a result. Workforce development centers have continued to come back to us to partner with them to go ahead and do workshops for employers and for their own participants in workforce development centers on how you can feel strong as an older adult participant, but also on the business case for older workers. And I think some of that, for example, last week we did one of those workshops for employers, and I want to recognize Michael Hare. Michael Hare was a fellow for changing the narrative last year and really managed the process of helping employers get certified as age-friendly. And one of the impacts of that, and now is doing it as a volunteer. Thank you, Michael. One of the things that we know happens is we will do one of these workshops on the business case, and we will hear from employers, where are those older workers? And yes, we're interested. So for example, as of last week, after we did a workshop, I was just sending referrals over to Michael. In terms of policy, I think, and again, this is not changing the narrative on our own. I mean, we really believe in collaboration and partnership. So key partners who have been involved in the advocacy work in Colorado have been, again, AARP Colorado, Colorado Center for Aging, CU Multidisciplinary Center. If I'm missing you, wave your hand and I will shout you out. Bell Policy Center. I mean, there have been a number of organizations. But things we have accomplished is in 2018 and 2019, we got workforce development for older workers added to significant policy agendas, including that of the Strategic Action Planning Group on Aging. We developed a coalition called the Older Worker Policy Collaborative. In 2021, through that effort, we got earned income tax credits to extend past the age of 65, and also got the state legislature to recognize that those workforce development funds that were coming into the state as the result of pandemic stimulus funds, portions of those should be used to reskill and upskill older workers. In last year, what year are we in? We're in 2022. Okay, in 2022, we're able to strengthen Colorado's age discrimination laws. So now, for example, the penalties for workplace age discrimination in Colorado are on par with other forms of discrimination. That was not true before legislation was passed last year. And again, we've set our sights in 2023 on getting one of those graduation date bills. And I'm really excited. We've already learned so much from AARP Connecticut, and Nora came out and talked to us and that kind of thing. So I think this kind of collaboration events like this today are what is going to create that climate, so that everybody coming out of all of your programs doesn't deal with like, oh yeah, but I don't like older workers. So that's our goal.
And can I just say one thing about Janine and changing the narrative? I use your stuff all the time with both sites, early childhood sites and older adults. And one of the articles that was just done on me, she sent it to me, she called me to ask me some questions, and I was noticing she kept using the word senior and just all these words, and I sent her one of your articles and said, would you please read this and rewrite it before you send it out, because I don't want all those ageist words in my article.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Yay.
You're welcome.
Yay.
And she did.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. So I'd like to ask each of you now to share about what advice you would give to an organization or company hoping to recruit older workers or to become more age-friendly. You can go in any order, Lisa, if you want to start.
Well, I just think I'm sort of a doer. I just like to do stuff. I just sort of saw this and was like, I'm just going to make it happen. And I think that's one of the things we have to. There's a lot of. I think sometimes you just need to jump in and do it. And I think maybe giving older adults permission to jump in and do something different and new. Everything that I heard today was just resonating in my head, and I was thinking about ways that I'm going to reach out to people in a different way, because I just think it's so important most of the people that come to my program don't have any experience in early childhood at all. They're engineers, they're biochemists, they're doctors, they're not people that you would think. And I have quite a few men, and most of the men say to me, this appealed to me because when I was raising my children, I missed it. I worked so hard that I missed it. And it always kind of chokes me up because it makes me so sad that that's the case. And they want to get that back. They want to have time with young children and get that back. So I think it's just just getting the word out and letting people know that it's a possibility is, I don't know, I just feel like doing it.
And for me, I think the important thing to remember is not to make diversity part of what you do because you have to, but to make diversity and inclusion part of what you do because it makes business sense. So if you have a team that values all people, and not only people like me who are over 50 or 55, but also people that are under 30, and that whatever a person's ability is, that their ability is honored at work, and they are seen to have value. Because I tell you, people who have been through a lot of challenges in life bring a lot with them. An amazing ability to problem solve. They have amazing resolve. They're grateful for their job. But when you also honor all ages, my boss just turned 28. That's been a trip. But there's some beautiful things about it. And we teach each other things. She teaches me about the computer, shocking, and I teach her about other things, that it's okay that things don't go perfect, and how to have difficult conversations, because I've gotten a lot better at that over the years. So I think that's one of the things, is to really encourage all of you to see the value in all people and to give people a chance, and to be okay if the person needs an accommodation. It's okay. It's okay if somebody talks under their breath at whatever. Some places that's not okay, but if it is, you just accept it. It is what it is. So just, I don't know, being able to honor that, and in doing that, the richness of the team, the ideas that the team will come up with, the solutions, the marketing, because most of us market to all kinds of people, and that's a value. So just seeing that value.
Makes sense. This may echo some of the nice presentation we had from AARP, but my biggest thing is try not to stereotype based on someone's age. I mean,
Yep.
you know, like sometimes we're inbred to think this, but it might be easy to think that someone who's 67 must be in some dire financial situation to want to work at that age. Therefore, they're not going to be a really good worker. They're going to have ulterior motives, financial. Or it might be easy to think that someone who's 62 is only going to work for 2 more years, just holding out till they can retire, so they're not going to be a good employee either. Prior to this job, I've been here for about a year. I was a director for an area agency on aging in central Colorado, rural, near Salida. And I love seniors, so I hired them. I can't tell you how many volunteers we had. We had 4 or 5 senior meal centers where the majority of the workers there were volunteers, and almost all of them were at least, over 65. And some of the hardest workers we've ever seen were our volunteers who weren't getting paid, not a lot of benefit other than they had passion in it also. So that, just thinking about my hands-on experience of watching this all the time, and they lasted like 20-something years, and until they couldn't do it anymore, but they're really, were exceptional workers. And I worked for an organization that really, kind of what you were saying, they really valued training their staff on different generations in the workplace. It was a council of government, so they held several programs in under their umbrella, various ages all among those programs. And I think at least twice we took these trainings of, the millennials versus the Gen Xers and the baby boomers. And while we all heard that, the baby boomers are the hard workers, the Gen Xers are the ones that want the work-life balance, and millennials don't really want to work. Well, this is kind of proven in some of the data that you see, unfortunately. But my personal experience was that most of my staff were baby boomers, and they were the ones that, yes, they walked around and they counted down their days verbally out loud to everybody how many days till they can retire. And they were, they were the exceptional workers. Though when they worked really hard. And we have to remember that, like you were saying, different generations do have different attitudes. And the Gen Xers, and just to defend my own generation here, we at least wanted our mental health days. That was important to us to have mental health days. And I actually didn't have any millennials, so I can't really speak on their behalf. But just, we have to remember that the baby boomers are the ones that are coming into the senior definition now. And, they're the ones that have the good work ethic still. And that's changing over time. And it'd be nice if it didn't, but, it is a little bit. So I just think that right now in this day and age, to consider that the 60 plus are kind of becoming seniors who, may need to work a little longer because of, for whatever reason, are most likely going to have a good work ethic. So that's just been my experience, and I hope that that's going to be the case. But I have found that to be true in these trainings for my organization and from my own experience. Again, we covered a 4-county region that was, everybody who worked for us was volunteers basically, and they were, the ones that really we could rely upon. So my advice is, like I said, just not to assume someone's situation is not because they don't really want to work, so they're not going to be a good worker. But I have seen otherwise. So,
Denise, you're giving me a lot to think about. So one of the things that I actually, a reporter asked me a few weeks ago, why do you older people want to work? So I'm 69, and I'm like always happy to say I'm 69. I'm working, I'm still working. I'm working, right? Why do older people want to work? And I think we want to work for the same, and that was what I said. I was like, well, why does anybody any age want to work? There's usually some combination of money, right? The 4 M's, money, mission, and meaning. We like the mental challenge, and the opportunity for mentoring, right? So to discount based on stereotypes. So we've already heard from AARP about one of the things you can do is kind of refute stereotypes, so I don't want to repeat that. We've heard from the Ames panel about some of the things that I would say if you want to attract older workers. Consider the images, the language you're using, remove age identifiers, train your hiring managers, use skill-based assessments, use social proof, and I consider the Certified Age-Friendly Employer Program social proof. I consider AARP's pledge program, it's social proof. If we quietly hire older workers, but we don't want anyone to know the secret, we're not helping anyone. So declaring that you are age-friendly, I think, is really important. I do note here, and I know so many of you here, so I know that we are all preaching to the choir, right? We are. This is the choir, and our goal has got to be to get a lot more voices in this choir. So the challenge that I would want to say, if we want employers to be more age-friendly, is that, and I'm giving everybody this challenge, and most of you, I think, have my email, and if you don't, ask someone at your table because they have my email. Go ahead. Identify one other person who might benefit from a 1-hour workshop on the business case for older workers in intergenerational teams. Somebody in your network, somebody that we could talk to. Email me and let me know. Connect us with. The more that we can get this word out, we're creating not only a ripple effect, but I've started calling this the NextFifty initiative flywheel effect. This is my next blog I'm writing. That NextFifty initiative has seeded so many things, right? In the Ames project, in changing the narrative, in all of your work, in the Center for Workforce Inclusion. We're all benefiting from that, but what we've got to do now is roll that out in a massive way. So if we really want to create a climate when anyone leaving any of your programs knows that whatever employer they walk into is going to be age-friendly, I really think it's up to us. We are the leaders we've been waiting for. Email me, think of at least one, jot it down right now, one organization or person that might benefit from a 1-hour employer education, and we'll be happy to accommodate.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I think we are out of time, and so we're going to wrap it up, but thank you. Do we have time for a couple questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.